We won't go around the room and do introductions, but I will introduce myself. I'm Chris Caprias from Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing. I am the Tourism Sales and Marketing Manager, and I have the opportunity to be the staff liaison to the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee. So this actually is the fourth time we have gone through the sponsorship process. So for those that have been to this workshop before, you can probably get up here and help me teach it. For those that haven't, hopefully we'll learn something today, but we'll see. I think you will. So anyway, we're going to get right into it. Basically, just some goals for today, just so you know what we're going to cover. First, I'm going to run through just the process in general, how we got to where we are today, and what the process is. And then these two sheets or packets are very, very important for you. They are in the back. And the main thing is we want you to get them from our website as well, because the application you can fill out online. So the application and the rules packet, I guess if you will, or the guidelines, we'll go over those in depth today. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I do want to recognize a few of the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee members that are here. And also we have a Tourist Development Council member here, Jackie Johnson is here, Mary Mast from the Polk Arts Alliance. And Mary can answer just as many questions, if not more, than I can about this process. So either throughout today or after today, you can call, email, whatever you want to do, tweet, Facebook, me, or Mary too, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Also, Harriet Rust is here from the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Like I said, if you have questions anytime, I'm going to keep it pretty informal. So just jump right in and interrupt me. I certainly don't mind. And again, this is more informational to help those of you that maybe haven't applied before, or maybe if you have and you still have questions about the process. Certainly the process isn't rocket science, but we do want to at least help you answer any questions before you get started with the process. So maybe you don't have as many as you get through it. So basically, the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee was started about 4 years ago. Like I said, they are an official standing committee of the Tourist Development Council, and all Tourist Development Council funds, of course, come from the bed tax. So you stay overnight in a hotel, motel, vacation home, campground, RV park, you're paying a tourist tax, and that is how we are funded, and that is where this amount, this money comes from. So part of the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee, this funding source, it's 15% of the first 3 pennies that are collected from the tourist development tax. And I'll kind of show you just a rundown, an example of this year, the current fiscal year we're in, where those numbers came from and how much was available this year, just to kind of give you an idea of where it started. So this is the vision statement of the I'll say ACH for short, so I don't have to keep saying Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee, but the ACH Committee actually had a workshop as one of their meetings. Had Dr. Larry Ross come in from Florida Southern College, and over several meetings and several exercises, they came up with this vision statement for Arts, Culture, and Heritage in Polk County. It is kind of small, so for those of you in the back, you can't read it. Leveraging grant funding for the arts as a recognized community asset to position Polk County as an arts, culture, and heritage destination. That is the vision statement for the Arts, Culture, and Heritage. Like I said, I just want to give you, I'm not going to go line by line through this, but this is kind of how we arrive at the budget each year, so we know what's available for this sponsorship fund. Basically, last year, new revenue, so basically the 15% of the first 3 pennies equaled about $464,000. That's where the fund for the current fiscal year we're in started. There was some carry forward from the previous year, and then we adjust our projections almost on a monthly basis as far as how much tourism tax we're collecting. Last year was actually a record year, by the way, so we collected the most tourist tax we've ever collected in Polk County last fiscal year. So basically, you can see here we started at $693,000 for the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee sponsorship process last year. $496,000 of that was committed to events. Artifacts is funded through this as well at $42,000, and then that left about $154,000 We did a supplemental application process last year for the first and actually only time last year. So after the initial process, we had one additional process with very, very limited funds, as you can see. And then after all of that was said and done, there's about $74,000 in that fund that we started this year with, and that is being used for marketing the arts, or marketing Polk County as an arts, culture, and heritage destination. So that just kind of gives you an idea. Most likely the numbers will be around the same for next fiscal year. So that shows you what will pretty much be available next year. And again, we won't know the hard numbers until we get closer to our new fiscal year, which currently runs on October 1st through September 1st, 31st fiscal year. So we'll know as we get closer exactly how much is left. But that just kind of gives you a brief overview of how we got to where we are. So this gives you an idea of the structure and governance of the TDC. So we have input from tourism industry professionals. That goes to the committees. There are 3 standing committees of the TDC: Sports and Special Events Committee, the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee, and the Marketing Committee. Those committees then report back to the full Tourist Development Council, and then of course the Tourist Development Council answers and reports to the Board of County Commissioners. This is the makeup of the TDC board. There's one Board of County Commissioner appointment, which that's Commissioner Melanie Bell. She is the chair of the TDC. 2 municipalities are represented, one being Lakeland, the largest municipality in the county, and then another municipality, and that is Winter Haven, that's represented. There are 3 accommodations industry representatives, and then 3 kind of at-large tourism industry representatives. Okay, so what you're all here for. The timeline for this current application process. And again, this will be 4 events that will take place October 1st of this year through September 31st of 2016. It sounds crazy to be talking about 2016, but we are. So we sit here today on February 10th, the workshop, and most likely we'll probably hold another workshop. I know Mary is going to do the same. And then also this is being recorded today for use on PGTV's here recording, so we will have this on our YouTube channel, and we'll also get it to Mary so she can put it on their website as well. So if you missed it, or you had a question, or you just can't get enough of hearing me talk, you can go and watch it there. But most importantly, we just want to make it available for those that couldn't make it today. They're able to watch it following today's workshop. So the application deadline, this is the most important date on the screen. It is April 30th at 4 p.m. So actually this year, you have more time than you've ever given in previous years. The call for applications actually went out in early January, and so that really gives you a good solid 3, almost 4 months to fill out the applications. Think about what events you have coming up, what you want to apply for. So hopefully that extra time helps you out. Once we receive the applications, and again, remember we have to receive them here at our office by 4 p.m. It can't be postmarked by that date. We have to have the packet here, signed, and delivered by 4 p.m. on April 30th. Once we receive those, our staff actually will take about a week, and this is new to the process this year. We'll take a week to go through each and every application, and we have a little checklist that we'll go through to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, the match amounts are correct. We've had some problems in the past with incorrect match amounts that'll disqualify an application. We've had people applying in the wrong category that disqualifies an application. So we're going to check all those things this year, actually have a little bit of time to where we can actually send that back to you and say, hey, you got this wrong, please correct it. You have 2 days, get it back to us. So that'll take place this year. We'll have about a week. We'll then give the applications to the committee at their May meeting on May 14th. The committee will then have until June 30th to score the applications. And the way we do it is we put them all on a CD, give them to each committee member. They read through each and every page. I guarantee you they do, because we get questions from all of them about certain applications. So they definitely have a lot of work ahead of them, and they do a great, great job. They then will meet, or the deadline to turn their scoring to me is June 30th at 5 p.m. So they'll email me their scores Our staff, we then tabulate all the scores, average everything out, and then bring those scores to the July 9th workshop for the committee. That is where they determine the actual sponsorship amounts for next year. So you will know what your score was and how much funding you would be proposed to receive on July 9th. Those amounts then go to the TDC at their meeting in August, and then from there, they go to the Board of County Commissioners. They actually don't go to the board until, once the TDC approves it, our staff will then send out contracts and paperwork to you. You'll get that back to us, and then those actually go on the Board of County Commissioners agendas as we receive them. So we do need to have all of that done before October 1st when we start the fiscal year. So we do have a lot of time at the beginning of the process, and at the end it gets a little scrunched up, but we always make it happen. And Stephanie Payline from our office, all of you will be hearing from her. She's the one that processes and creates the contract, and she'll be communicating with you once you're approved and we start that process.
And what's her name?
Stephanie Payline. She's right over there if you have any questions as well. I'll give you her home phone number, cell phone. Okay, so any questions about the timeline? That is a timeline for our current process that we're in.
Until June 30th, I can't see that.
June 30th is the committee scoring deadline, so the committee will have to get their scores to me by June 30th at 5 p.m. And I'll go through in depth in a minute more about the scoring process and how the scores work and how we tabulate them and what each score means. Any other questions about the timeline? Okay. So here's the process. The Arts and Culture Committee determines the sponsorship recommendation. Like I said, that amount then goes to the TDC for their approval. Once they approve, we generate the contract. That's where Stephanie comes in, like I was saying. And then we send that contract out to you for your signature. We always have to have 2 signed copies. It has to be by an authorized signee of your organization. And we'll get you all of those details as we get closer, and it's in your packet as well, as to who can sign and things like that. But because we are a county government organization, the rules are very, very strict about who can sign a contract and where that has to come from. Once we have the signed contract from you, it then goes to the Board of County Commissioners at one of their regularly scheduled meetings on their agenda. They approve, and then we are set to go. And then this is very important. Sponsorship payment is made after your event. So this is a reimbursement-based program, and you're not going to need any funds up front. So after your event occurs, you provide the required paperwork, performance measures. We then turn in all of your paperwork to the county finance and accounting for payment, and then they send the check out to you, and we do it all again next year. So that's the process for sponsorship through the TDC county. Any questions about that process? And again, I'll go more in depth into that process in just a second. Okay, so the post-event paperwork. This is what is required. In addition to this, we also have to have, and I'll go over it in a second, but first is an economic benefits report. Everyone has to turn this in after your event. And I know you can't see it on the screen, but basically just ask how many in-county attendees did you have, how many out-of-county attendees, how many were adults, how many were youth. It asks what your event expenses are. It asks how many room nights were generated, and then you can't just make up a number. It asks how you came up with that number. So, and all of this goes into a spreadsheet that we use just to calculate that total economic benefits, economic impact, and return on investment for each event.
Chris,
yes.
Just to clarify, it doesn't have to be an overnight event to qualify for this grant.
It doesn't have to be a multiple day event, but obviously with the funding coming from tourist tax funds, we want your goal to be overnight stays, because that's how the fund gets replenished and how we have more and more money available in this fund each and every year by having people stay overnight. So certainly it doesn't have to be a multiple day event, but we do want you, and I'll get into it when we get to to how you can use the match fund. We want you to advertise outside of the county, so at least people, if they're gonna make a day trip, that's good, because they are still spending money in the county, restaurants and things, but we hope that they would stay overnight, so. Then, so then we ask your expense breakdown, and again, this is just more of your post-event budget, and then the reimbursement request is just a formal request, you asking for that money for reimbursement. In addition to these 3 sheets, and these will be sent to you with your contract, so don't worry about that, they'll all be sent to you. In addition to those, we also ask for any invoices from advertising, tear sheets from those ads. We ask for any backup like that, because again, we are the county, when we run ads or we turn in invoices, we have to have that same backup. So if it's advertising, we have to have the invoice that you paid off of, we have to have the tear sheets from the ad, and those kind of things. Also surveys. We don't have a set survey that we provide you, but we do ask that you do some type of survey, whether it's collecting zip codes. If you have a 2-3 question survey, we can help you with that. I know Mary has a sample survey as well, a very short one that you can have your attendees fill out. And this is as much for us as it is for you, because we think it's important that you know where your customer is coming from, who your customer is. That should help you in your marketing in the future as well. So some kind of research that comes with your packet too. Like I said, whether it's zip codes, surveys, whatever it is, you have to have some type of research, and especially if you're telling us how many room nights and how you found out about that, that's where that comes in as well. So once we have all of that, and again, we do have to have all of that to turn into the county, because they will not make payment without that, then we will turn it in and get your reimbursement check. So that's the kind of an overview of the process. Then now we'll get into the actual application and the guidelines. Any questions about any of that?
I don't, maybe this isn't the right time, Chris, but we do a survey. We ask if people stay in the area. We ask them how many room nights on our survey.
Okay.
But
Good job.
thank you. But I actually don't know how else to get any more information. You know what
That's
I mean?
really all you need.
To let you know that people have stayed in the area, because we can, I mean, I can guesstimate that so many people came to the event, and then, you know, a percentage stayed at hotels based on the survey. But is there another way that we could do that?
Really, the
We
way
kind
it
of
sounds,
struggle with that a little bit.
One question, and I don't know if it's on that, but it's on our survey, and maybe we can add that, is to say, where is your primary residence? Because they may be here for 3 months, let's say. So they didn't generate an overnight stay, but they're not from here. So if their permanent resident zip code is out of the area, that is the same as generating room night.
Well, we can get that from our zip code survey, obviously.
But it should be all one survey.
Well, we do a few different
I found that the easiest
Yeah,
thing, I found that the easiest thing for us, because we've tried to do it in different ways, was like during a program at intermission, I have my volunteers walking around, because people don't like to fill out.
Right.
So you walk around and you fill it out as you go along, where you're from, yeah, and that's the easiest thing for us. Of course, we have like one event or 2 days of an event, so each day we have somebody walking around with a clipboard and say, where you're from, are you staying, and, you know, some people don't even want to answer that.
We call
Which is weird.
hotels, we just call hotels local and ask them, do you have any people stay over for this event? And they don't.
that's what I was gonna say, that's what we've seen in a lot of the post-event paperwork. That's been the biggest thing that people are doing, is that they actually just call the hotel and say, how many people did you have for this?
Okay.
And that could be, obviously, time, it'd take a lot of time, but it is very, very helpful, again, not just for us, but for you to know if your marketing worked, if people were coming in. Yes, Harry?
I think just to reinforce what Mary is saying is that short-term rental people who are here for more than that one night, or here for 3 months, whatever, count because they pay that overnight stay.
6 months or less, yes. Sandy.
Chris, this is probably a stretch, but a lot of the stuff that we need to do additional marketing for to bring in more people are like Aerospace Discovery Weekend and Big Fly and all that stuff. They start right at the beginning of the grant cycle. If we're promoting it prior to October 1st, if we're approved, can we put those expenses into reimbursement request?
Yes, it's for events that they, and you would pretty much, and others have done this at Polk Museum of Art has, and Bach has, and some others. Basically, you'd be applying for a season. Theater Winter Haven has done it. So yes, you would be applying for an entire year of programming. You wouldn't be able to turn in for a reimbursement until the very end. But yes, if you did some stuff in September to promote something for October, yes, it depends on when the event falls. So yeah, you'd be fine with that.
What if the event's in April, when it wouldn't have? Say this coming April.
No, it has to be October 1st.
Yeah, we'll be
this year.
next October, November, but we're trying to advertise it before the kids get out of
No, you're
school.
fine, Yeah, if the event's in April of this year, hopefully the organization will apply it in our current cycle. But that's being covered right now, that's the year winner. And we actually tried last fiscal year's process. We came up with a standard 5 to 6 question survey. We found that a lot of the theaters were having trouble with that because it's obviously kind of a dark setting, and it's tough to get people to be filling out a survey while they're sitting in the theater. So, I know we're working with Mary and the committee to come up with our own just kind of universal survey that we can use and would work for everyone. So, until then, we ask that if you have your own, that's great. If you can collect zip codes, if you have a ticket system that generates ticket sales, and you can pull some information on that, that's great too. Okay, so we'll go into, unless there's any other questions for right now, we'll go. Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Can an event be, you apply for, like an event includes sports, but also arts and culture, can it be applied for both?
No, it cannot. Actually, yeah, that's a great question. So we do have, like I showed you, we have several committees. We have 3 actually, standing committees: the Sports and Special Events Committee, Marketing Committee, and the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee. And we've had that come up the last couple of years. If you're receiving funding from the Sports and Special Events Committee currently, you can apply through Arts, Culture, and Heritage, but you can't do both. So that's kind of a decision that you'll have to make. And there's nothing saying that you can't apply through this process. So if you do, then it's in the committee's hands as to what your score ends up being if you receive funding. So yeah, it's one or the other. No double dipping. Because again, overall, it does come from the same fund, even though it's a little bit separate. It's still coming from the tourist tax. Okay, so we'll start with the application. And it's up on the screen, but if you don't have a copy in front of you, if you don't, there are some in the back, I believe. If not, I can blow this up a little bit bigger so you can see it. But really, and again, like I said, this isn't rocket science. I just like to go through it just so we can maybe answer any questions you may have. And I'm not going to go line by line because I think you all know how to fill out name of organization, contact person. But I just want to point out a few of the things that we've seen people kind of get tripped up on in the past, and we've actually tweaked a few things this year as well. A couple new lines on this, and again, these can all be filled out online. You don't have to handwrite it out or anything. You can find it on our website. It's visitcentralflorida.org/TDC. If you go straight there, it'll be there. Just go down a little bit, and it's under Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee. You'll see the video from today on there. You'll see a link to download the application, also a link to download the guidelines. It's all right there on the website. And if you need me to email it to you or anything like that, I can do that too. So yeah, like I said, a couple things we added to the application on page 1. We asked your project event title this year. In the past, we haven't asked that for some reason. So we get the applications and we'd be searching through, okay, what's the name of the event? So we have it right on the front this year for you. So you can tell us the name of the event date. That is very, very important. Obviously, it has to fall in that time frame, but we need you to tell us the projected event date. And then the total project program cost, that is your budget for the event. This is an area where we've seen some people kind of have an issue because whatever you put here, and then we'll get to the next part in a minute, as far as your match amounts, it has to match. So if you're asking if your budget's $20,000 for your event and you're asking for 60, that doesn't match. So if it's a one-to-one match category, you have to only be asking for 40. So it all depends on that program project cost. So that is your budget for the event. And then we get into just number of employees, things like that. They're pretty self-explanatory. The next page is very important, and again, this is where we've seen some people, this is where we get a lot of questions from. I don't want to say people get tripped up by it, but, and understandably, especially if it's your first time applying, it could be difficult to figure out which category do I fall in, or, my events could be in one or two. So, program category. First category is regional event. So that's a multiple day event, and it can be an event that recurs every year. So I'll use Mayfair as an example. Polk Museum typically applies, and I'm not giving away any secrets because actually I should have covered this at the beginning. We are county government, so everything, all these applications, everything that's turned in becomes public record. So all of the things that you fill out on these are subject to sunshine laws and public record, just so you all know that up front. So like I said, I'm not giving away any secrets telling you how Polk Museum applies in the past. If you wanted to see their past applications, I can certainly send them to you because that's part of public record law. So like I said, Polk Museum usually for Mayfair, that fits into regional events. That's an event that really covers the entire region, and that's a big event. That's a multiple day event. So that's maximum request of $100,000, and it goes into the details of 50% has to be spent targeting out of market audiences. It's a one-to-one match. So that's where it gets into the details of match amounts. Then it also covers how much you can have in kind and things like that. Next category is ongoing cultural program development and presentation. That's a maximum request of $50,000. So this is where your seasons fall in and things like that. Yes.
That's like your whole season, like
It
your
can be.
season of 3 performances that are, okay,
Yeah, we've had that in the past as well. Yes.
okay.
So yeah, ongoing programs, that would fall into that category. Enhancement events that have little or no income potential. This is maybe where the one-day events would fall in. It's a one-time thing, or the first time you've done that event. That would fall into that category. Fundraising events that are arts, culture, and heritage focused. Trying to think of an example of this one. I believe Theater Winter Haven had one this past year that they applied for. So this would be a fundraiser for your organization, but it could also be an event that people from outside the county would want to come to. So if it's a fundraising event and it has a focus of arts, culture, and heritage, it would fit into this category. If it's a fundraising event that doesn't really focus on arts, culture, and heritage, you still can apply, and that would be under the next category. And again, on each one of those, you can see the different match amounts that you have to have, how the match can be spent. And basically, I like to tell everyone, say you're going to be spending $10,000, and you say you're receiving $10,000 from the sponsorship. The $10,000 that you have to spend to get the $10,000, you can spend that however you want. And that could be spent on advertising in county and things like that. The $10,000 you receive from the sponsorship has to be spent advertising outside of Polk County. So that's a question I get all the time. So that is the most important thing. That the funds you receive from the sponsorship have to be spent advertising your event outside of Polk County. Again, so you can bring people in. And we're not saying you have to do advertising in Michigan or in New York and some of our key target markets. Obviously, if it's your first year event or if it's a one-day event, it's going to be a drive market as your target audience. So you can advertise in St. Pete or in Orlando or things like that. But we do try to encourage you to at least have it to be a place where they most likely need to spend the night if they did come to the event. So like a Jacksonville or a St. Augustine or Sarasota or something like that.
I'm sorry, you said 100% has to be spent on out-of-county, but these are saying 50%.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry, I got confused.
It depends on the, like I'm talking about the last one there. It
Okay.
says 100% has to be allocated out of marketing. Some of them is 50%, so it depends on by the category.
Okay.
Now, I was just talking about that last category.
Okay.
Any questions about that? Like I said, that's an important part of the program category. And you don't have to have your answer today as far as where you're going to be applying. If you have questions after this, or as you're filling out your application, call me anytime, email me, and I'll help you. I'll try to help you select the category that fits your event. Okay, next up is the program summary, and you can see we're pretty specific there in no more than 150 words. And yes, we do actually do a word count on that, so don't try to cheat. That's one of our checklist items. And I can tell you in seriousness, the committee is very, very serious about these different, you'll see it several times through here, so there's 150 words there, no more than 5 type pages in the next part. We definitely check those things, so please adhere to those rules. We actually, I think it was last year, Mary, we had a few that, they weren't thrown out, but they did receive a pretty significant cut in what they were supposed to get because they didn't follow the rules. So that will happen, and I wouldn't rule out being completely thrown out this year because this is the second year now of them really cracking down on this, and for good reason. They're reading through 30, 40 applications, and there's a lot to read through. So no more than 150 words, describe your organization's plans and activities. So we don't want to have like an overview of your organization here. We want to know just a brief overview of what your event is, what your goals are, what you want to accomplish. That goes here. So we don't want to see like your biography there. We want to see a good summary of what the event is and how you plan to be successful with your event. Next is your organization's budget history. This isn't your event budget. This is your actual organizational budget history. So as for current fiscal year, most recent completed fiscal year, and then prior fiscal year. Okay, next section, again, this is where the limits come in. So this is your narrative. This is, I'd say, the most important part of your application because this is where the scoring comes in. So no more than 5 type pages. I mean, we do check, I promise. Minimum, we get really specific here. Minimum 12-point font, 1-inch margin. So we know, you can fit a lot into 5 pages if you're like 9-point font, 0.5 spacing. But we give you the rules there as far as what we'll accept. So 12-point font and 1-inch margins. And basically what we want to do, or what the committee wants you to do here, is answer each of these questions as part of your narrative. So, and it even says there, please outline your response in the same format as below. In the past, we've had people just kind of give us their marketing plan for their event, but the committee definitely wants each of these questions answered specifically of how you're going to execute your event. And that is how you're scored. So 30 points are weighted towards cultural development programming, 30 points towards marketing and operational plan, 20 points for your program and project schedule, in relation to tourism demand. So, is your event in a peak time of year, is it in a shoulder season? That'll carry some weight there. This one's very important again because, yes.
As far as the peak, near peak or moderate demand, I mean, if it's funding a season, you want it listed, this is when this happens, this is when this happens, as far as demand.
And then the next one is, again, because it's coming from the tourism tax fund, it's very important to show your lodging and hospitality industry partnerships. So tell us about hotels that you're working with to have room blocks, or do you have a package created with a hotel that's near your event? Things like that are very important in this section. That's worth 10 points. And then demonstrated program management capability. Again, that's 10 points as well. So have you had this event before, or have you had events before, and how have you managed those? Have you been successful? Have you not? So that's 10 points. So I was a communications major, I'm not great at math, but that does equal up to 100. 100 points are possible. I can tell you no one's ever received a full 100, but we've had some 95s and 97s. So what the committee does when they score the applications, each one scores every application, and we go through, like I said, and we'll tally them all up, put them all into a spreadsheet, and the average score for your application across all of the committee members, say you apply for $10,000 and you get a 78. That means you get 78% of what you asked for, so you would be approved for $7,800. So that's very important to know. Yes, Sam.
Chris, is there any, I apologize, I haven't said it on these. Is there any sustainability requirement at the end of the grant cycle, or would you fund the same thing every year?
We've funded Mayfair by Lake every single year we've had the program. Definitely every. But it's no guarantee that you would get next year what you received last year. You have to apply every single year and you score every single year. So does everybody understand that down, the scoring and how that works in relation to what you've asked for and what you would receive? Again, that's really important. And then the most important thing on that is the minimum score of 60 to receive funding. So you could get a 59, and you wouldn't get 59% of what you asked for, you would get 0. So you have to get a minimum score of 60 to even be considered for funding. And if so, there's a big difference between a 60 and a 59, huge difference. So that's again very important to meet that minimum score of 60. Any questions about scoring? Okay. Then we get into your project budget details. So you've given us your organizational budget already. Now we ask for the actual project budget. You've given us that number on page 1, but we want to see, the committee wants to see the actual breakdown of your event budget. So that would be attached to this. And then with all that, you're done. Then you have your authorized signature. So again, that has to be someone that is authorized to sign for your company, and we go through sunbiz.org to check those things. You can't just have anyone sign your contract, because again, you're entering into an agreement with the county, and they have to have an approved signing. Yes.
Is it a certain type of company you have to be a 501c3?
Yes, and we'll get.
What about municipality?
Yes, the municipalities, the 501c3s, and we'll get into that with the guidelines. Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. So then we remind you again, all of the required attachments. So kind of, we give you a checklist there at the end of the application of everything you need to have on there. We need you to submit one original signed copy to us here. And you're more than welcome to mail it in. I can tell you for the most part, on April 30th, we'll probably have a line of people coming in the door at about between 12 and 4 o'clock. We do encourage you to turn them in early, but we understand that everyone's busy. Sometimes you do turn them in at the last minute, but 4 o'clock we lock the doors. So that is the deadline, that's on there. And then the final notes, again, very, very important. You can tell it's important because I put it in red and underlined it. Applicants are encouraged to complete the application early. Do not hesitate to call if you have any questions. Applications that do not meet the guidelines, incomplete, exceed page length, will not be scored. So you do have a little bit of an added buffer this year that we've incorporated the week of review by our staff, but we still ask that you try to make them as perfect as possible when you turn them in on the 30th. Yes, Sam?
Is there a concept where the application, you said it's online, can it be uploaded with attachments?
No, you can't. You can fill it out. It's a fillable Word document. You'll still have to print it out, and you can save it and then email it to us, but you can't upload it to the site. Any other questions about the application?
Chris, I have one more question about scoring.
Okay.
Is there any way that you could make the committee comments, like written comments?
What's that?
Is there any way you could make the committee comments available
Sure.
to us after, like, so we can maybe get a better idea of how to improve?
Sure.
Sometimes there's little tidbits in
And,
there.
and some of them, I can tell you, some of them actually do put comments on their Excel score sheet. Others write on the application, but I don't get those back. We can, certainly. Obviously, it's,
So there's not like a specific way to capture written comments in the scoring process?
no, it's not required,
It's not
but
required.
most of them, like I said, all of them do have comments. Some, about half probably type them into their score sheet that they send to me. The other half, I think, just write on each individual one.
And Chris, I put together a sheet of the biggest complaints that the committee has with what they've received that we followed that were easy, like not signing, not having a signature page there, et cetera. So I would be happy to send that to everybody.
Yeah.
It's an easy
Those are
guideline.
easy ways to,
Yeah, and I was gonna go over that briefly.
So, and like I said, they're all public records, so if you wanted to get your ones from last year, we could request them from the committee, that's no problem. All right, we're gonna go into the guidelines now. And again, I won't go page by page, because these are a little thicker than the actual application, but the application has all the instructions you need. This has in-depth instructions, so if you ever have a question about the application, most likely there's a little more detail in here. And again, if you still need more detail, call me, call Mary anytime, and we'll be happy to help you. First couple pages just give you a little bit of the history of the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee. Shows you the dates to remember, the application deadline. Goes through the process again, and also, it's pretty important for you probably, is to see the list of committee members, just if you wanted to know who is on that committee. That's right there. Commissioner Bell is the chair of that committee, and Brad Hansler is the vice chair. Just some more background and history of the committee, and then it specifically talks about some conflicts of interest and things like that. And that's important to note that if there is a committee member, and this has happened, if there are committee members that either are applying on behalf of their organization for something, or they sit on the board of for example, someone sits on the board of Imperial Symphony Orchestra, they do not score that application. And they all turn in conflict of interest sheets and things like that, so it's all very transparent. This is where we get into the program goals, and I kind of covered these, but I do encourage you to read through them when you have time. It shows you the goals of the program, obviously to drive overnight stays and generate economic activity, again, by people spending money in restaurants and things like that. The number one program goal is driving overnight stays. And then it gives you the objectives of the program as well on page 5. Page 6, this is where we get into the eligibility that was asked about earlier. Every event, everyone that applies, your event has to be open to the public. It has to bring economic benefits to Polk County. You have to be a nonprofit organization qualified to do business in Florida. And it also says that public schools or government organizations are also eligible. So, nonprofit or a government organization. Yes.
How long do they have to have been a 501c3? Is there any restriction on that?
There's no restriction. You just have to be able to show your tax form on that. And you can see there, you have to turn in your, you have to turn in your most recent with your application. Okay, so the event classifications is pretty brief on the application, but here it goes into a lot more detail. So definitely read through that. It shows you, and it probably answers a few more questions about if you're wondering what category to apply in. So that shows you the event classifications and a little bit more of the match amounts. This is a pretty important part to look at as well. And this really applies for all of them, but mainly in category B, Sponsorships in this category should be considered venture capital funds to plan, develop, and present projects and events that expand organizational capabilities. So, in other words, if you have this great idea for an event that you really don't want to do, but you haven't had the funding to do it in the past, that's where this category comes into place. And we've done this as far as tourism and sports marketing, as far as growing events. So start an event as maybe a one-day event with the goal of growing it into a 3 or 4 day event, again, to drive overnight stays. So that's where this category really is, as far as you have an idea for a new event that you really want to start. Maybe it's only going to start as a one-day event this year, and next year you can grow it to be a 2-day event. And that's where the venture capital funds kind of comes into play there.
Chris,
Yes.
the chamber I represent is not a 501c3, but we have a foundation that is, that we run through the foundation.
Yes. We've had applicants who haven't passed. Okay, then, so then it goes into detail about preparing your proposal. Again, this is mostly straight from the application, but a little more detail. And a very important one to note here, towards the bottom of the page, and it's a little bit better now that we have just the printed forms that you're turning in, but save your money. We don't need you to turn it in this elaborate notebook, or give us a nice box or something and put it in. Just bring us a packet of paper and hand it to us. That's all we need. So don't waste your time as far as putting a big presentation together. Again, your time is very, very valuable. Your resources are very valuable. So we want you to save those for your event and just turn in a packet of paper. We don't need like big 3-ring binders or anything like that. Any questions on any of that? Then we get into the general guidelines. That's where we talk a little bit more about the time of year, whether it's peak season, shoulder season. And we do encourage you to work with other events. You're not just in your little silo. If you're going to be applying for an event and there's someone in a neighboring community that's going to be applying as well, and maybe you can do them around the same time or join them together, we encourage that. We want you to not only work with the lodging properties in the town, we want you to work with each other and bring 2 events together to make one big one. So that's definitely encouraged and would be encouraged, and you see that in your scoring as well.
Can you define, I see on page 15, they define peak season, but there's no definition of near peak or moderate. What does that mean?
You're looking way ahead and not like.
Yeah, well, you just talked about peak season.
I know. Yes. So the question is, well, these are just some examples of our peak season right now, basically. So January through end of April, that is peak season. We have a lot of events going on, a lot of just general tourism activity in the area. So that would be considered our peak season, is January through April. And you're not going to have points taken away because you have an event during that time. It's just you get the full, probably, I can't speak for the committee, but you get a lot more consideration for the highest amount of points if you're able to create an event that's in more of a shoulder season for us. So anytime outside of January through April. Did that answer it all?
I understand what peak is, but I don't know what near peak is. Sorry.
Where are you seeing that, near peak?
It's a headache.
Yeah, so that's our peak season, and then a little bit after that, summer is basically would be more of our shoulder season, so would be the moderate demand period. Peak, I'd say, would be January through April. Near peak would be, December would be more of a moderate. So, and again, these are just more for guidelines, and you're not going to get points taken away or added because you have an event in the peak season. We're just kind of, we're encouraging you to think about, if you're creating a new event, to think about when that event would be, and if you can get into a summertime where it's more of a moderate demand period, that would be good. This is more for those that are creating a new event.
Chris, could you talk a little more about clustering, how that works, two different organizations, two different coming together, how that affects how we process this?
I mean, it doesn't really, like, it doesn't affect anything in your scoring. We just, the committee encourages organizations to work together. So if you know, if your event is, I'm making up, say it's in June, and there's an event in a neighboring community that's right after if you work together to maybe bring the events together, or maybe you work together to create packages for your two events, to, if somebody visits both, they get something. It's just, again, trying to have the organization work together to build. The whole goal is to build the community, or build Polk County as a arts, culture, and heritage destination. And we feel that can be helped by organizations working together.
So how do we show that when we fill out the application? That's what
If you're working with another organization I put that in part of your narrative, that you can put it in the area where you're talking about driving overnight stays. Certainly, if you have an event on one weekend and someone else has one on the next weekend, and you're able to maybe bring them together a little bit to where they almost overlap, and that would encourage someone to stay for both, that would help you in that area this morning. So that would just, you just put that in your narrative. And that's how, this is the same for how you show working with hotels and accommodations. Really, all you can include, most people include a letter from a hotel that, yes, we're working with X event, and we've blocked X number of rooms, or we've created this package. So if you want to get a letter from the organization you're working with, you can include that as well.
Several organizations last go around actually had an event in the same city, and they were within the same 24-hour period, so they got together and they talked about collaborating. They went to restaurants, and they got letters from the restaurants saying they supported this, and maybe they were giving ticket holders 10% off or something. So it actually shows the collaboration with the hotel, restaurants, and other events, which gives you an opportunity, and it shows the committee that you're trying to grow the event.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily just the example I gave was bringing two events together, like Mary said, it doesn't have to be that. It could be maybe 3 or 4 events come together and create some kind of passport or card that somebody can come to every event, get it stamped, and if you get all 4 of them stamped, you receive a nice gift or something. That could be an example as well. So there's several ways you can do it, but again, the whole goal is to bring more people in.
Using that last example, if there was a passport where people did the stamp, and we got a group of 10 people that wanted to do that, would all of those 10 people then, that's the only application that they can apply for?
No, that would be, and you'd probably have to work it out amongst the 10, who would apply. Are you talking about how would you cover the passport, printing of the passport? Or something
Well,
like
if
that?
one organization headed it up
Right.
and then arranged for the printing and the management and all of that for these passport, the distribution to all the organizations. So just because they had said they wanted to participate in that, that would not preclude them being able to apply for this opportunity.
No, they could be part, whoever the lead organization was, they could be part of their application.
Thank you.
Okay, then we get into conditions for matching funds on bottom of page 9. And again, this gets into what we talked about on the application in a little more detail as far as the matching and things like that. Page 10, just some miscellaneous kind of housekeeping as far as how the money is spent and how the sponsorships work. So they're all for 1 year. It tells you the dates that they're applicable. It's all reimbursement based. And this answers Sandy's question. No sponsorships are guaranteed to be renewed, but they can be renewed. And then the project has to be completed within the year the funds are awarded. And then what I think is, and the committee actually added this a couple years ago, and we've had this in the past where some organizations have applied, and this is like the majority of this would be the majority of their budget for their event. These funds are supposed to supplement, not supplant your event's budget. So use these as a supplement, and these funds should not be, they should not make or break your event. If you have to have these funds for your event to go on, then it's probably not good to apply. Because you should have, a solid budget for your event and not be counting on these funds to make your event happen, but they should help your event and enhance your event. Then we get into the reporting requirements once again. Again, some more detail as far as what we're looking for, the post-event forms, invoice from your, that's the other thing that isn't included in your packet, but we do ask that you send us an invoice from your organization. The county needs an actual invoice to pay off of, so that's why we ask for that. And then documentation, survey results, and things like that. Some more miscellaneous housekeeping items there at the end. That you do agree to conduct event surveys. The Visit Central Florida logo, if your event is receiving funding, the Visit Central Florida logo has to be on all promotional materials, ads, and things like that. And then the TDC reserves the right to request additional information beyond that. So some more fine print there. Very, yes. No, go ahead.
On page 9, under conditions for matching funds, could you explain the 50% of total project cost excluding advertising? Because we always put that in as a line item on a project.
You're talking about the funding amount requested may not exceed 50% of the total funded
Excluding
cost?
advertising.
Yes. So this is basically covering in-kind services.
Right?
So you can use in-kind services as part of your match amount. So say you need to get to $10,000 to receive $10,000. You can add in-kind services, even if you're not paying for them. You can still add them into your match amount, but it can't be more than 50%.
Well, what's the excluding advertising?
Not counting advertising.
Well, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand the words.
So advertising could be 100%?
Yes, yeah, if you're paying, so you use the 10,000 example, if you're spending $10,000 in advertising to get to 10,000, perfectly fine, but then if you're trying to get to 10,000, maybe you're only spending 2,000 in advertising and you want to use like 8,000 of in-kind, you can't do that.
If you're advertising, would be promotional products now, like,
Yes, it counts, yeah, we've had people count shirts before, so it's like, I think Mayfair, you count their the event shirts that they have. And that's a form of advertising for your
T-shirts are not considered.
So if we have an event and there's 100 people and they're all paying a $20 admission fee, that's $2,000 of income for the event.
Yeah.
And the expenses could be $4,000 and we get $2,000 from you to have that. Is there income counted against us with the selling tickets or?
No, income it isn't part of the equation at all. It's only what you're spending, yes. Yeah.
Chris,
Yes.
on page 9, right, second thing on the top, it said T-shirts are not considered
They're not considered, you can't turn an invoice to us for T-shirts for us to reimburse you for that. You can pay for
Okay,
T-shirts
okay.
out of your portion of the
Okay,
match.
I see what you mean.
Yes. That's a great question. Thank you. Like I said earlier, the amount that you have to spend to get to the matching amount can be spent on most things, almost anything, but the funds that you receive from us does have to be spent on advertising. Yes.
Hey, Chris, do you count, like, the staff salaries that are applicable to that specific project as in-kind or as part as cash match?
Actually, neither. Salaries cannot be part of it unless you're hiring someone just for that event.
Like, going back to the Mayfair, they have salary that they pay people specifically to coordinate that event. That would be considered cash match. Not in-kind.
No, that's actually not part of theirs.
Not, they wouldn't be asking for funding for that,
Right.
but they'd be using it as match.
I don't believe they do, and
That's a hard
it should, yes, and for the most part, most people have turned in for as far as salaries, is if you're paying for like a dance troupe to come in, you can use that as part of your match to get the dance troupe to come here, as an example, and you can't salaries, and that's actually on,
Page 12.
it's on page, what about, on page 12?
Yeah, it says it's a restriction for funding, but
Right.
not, so it's a restriction for match as well.
Yes, it's not, you can't pay salary. Or your salaries can't be considered.
Salaries can be for a match if it's directly,
If it's for, if you hire someone just for that event, and they're
Right.
basically a temporary employee for that event, yes, you can use it for that. But not just someone you already have working for you, but then they're overseeing that project. No, you have to hire someone specifically for that event.
Okay, and then you can't count that as in kind either.
You can, if they're hired for that event specifically, yes. Yes.
My dancers are on salary, okay? We do an event that instead of having a 30-week contract, we get the grant and are able to extend their contract for 2 weeks. Is that salary? For those 2 weeks, to keep the dancers
For
for an additional 2 weeks.
For the event, or is that
For
the
the
season?
event. No, for the event.
So what are the
So-
additional 2 weeks for? Is that for an event?
To keep-
or
yes.
Just so you have them here?
Yes, if their contract was supposed to end April 1st, and now we find out we have an event, we've applied for monies,
Yeah.
and we're gonna keep it
If
for another 2
it's,
weeks.
if it's to keep them here for 2 weeks because you have an event?
Right.
They're gonna be in, yes.
Okay.
If it was just to keep them here 2 weeks in case you need them, then no.
Okay.
And, again, I mean, it's basically a case-by-case basis, so if you have specific questions like that, just call me or call Mary anytime, and we'll certainly help you walk through this thing. For the most part, especially on the match side, on your match side, we're pretty flexible. Just we cannot, with the county, we cannot be flexible on the funds that we provide. So we get to the restrictions on page 12. You can see them all there. Capital improvements, mortgage payments, equipment purchases, that's a big one, we get asked a lot. Payment of past deficits, this is where we get to administrative costs, including salaries, activities and events, food, lodging, and transportation for traveling outside of the county, so you can't apply to go to a conference or something like that. Rent paid to a sponsoring organization for hosting events, so if you don't have a facility, you're having to rent a facility for your event, you cannot use that. Scholarships, plaques, awards, food, and beverages, so those are the restrictions, things you cannot
When
use.
you say restrictions, they cannot be used for the match.
No.
Okay.
And then review procedure, which I already went through. And another one it's covered in here, I went over it pretty quickly, but say you apply for this is important, because we've had this come up actually a lot in the last year. Say you apply for your event, you turn it in, you get approved, you said your event was going to be July 7th, and something comes up and you have to change the date of your event. Maybe the people you were bringing in for the event got sick, or they had a conflict. If you change the date of your event, we need at least 60 days notice. And I know sometimes it can be a last minute thing, but as soon as possible, it can't be the day of the event or after the fact. We have to know in advance if you're changing the date. It's not a problem as long as it still falls in the fiscal year time frame, but we have to know, send in writing, send an email saying, we have our event scheduled for this date, we have moved it to this date, and then 99% of the time where we said, okay, no problem. So we just need to know when those event dates change. And also in the packet, another important thing to remember is we have to have your post-event paperwork within 60 days of your event. And so the day your event ends, you have 60 days to get that paperwork to us.
It's a series of 4 or 5 events in the series.
You have to wait until the very end.
Series to the last.
Yes. And I know sometimes there are some extenuating circumstances, you may need an extension. We don't do it a lot, but we are able, depending on if it's a real serious situation, if you ask for like a 15-day extension, sometimes we can do that. But the committee feels 60 days is plenty of time to get into the work after the event. So I think, hopefully I covered pretty much everything and tried to answer some of the questions. And then the last page there are just some definitions for you, for some of the terms that we use in the application packet or in the guidelines. Any other just general questions about the process, about the amount available, the timeline, anything? I mean, I covered so long.
This signature, you say it's very important to sign the
Yes.
document. So say, we were going to run this through the chamber foundation, so the person that would sign that document would be the executive director or the president or?
If they're authorized through Sundays to sign for the organization, yes.
And then if it was the city, it would be like the city manager.
Yes, whoever be authorized to sign, yes. Yeah, in the past, when we've had municipalities apply to the mayor or the city manager. Yes.
Chris, does trinkets included as marketing?
What is?
Trinkets.
So promotional items?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
They're included in what you can claim as your match. You can't turn in an invoice to us for reimbursement. But
Okay.
something you can pay for, including your match. Anything else? Mary, I know Mary has some stuff to cover as well.
I just wanted to do a break of the major complaints of the arts committee when I've gotten a lot of these applications. They're very simple, but, for instance, address every bullet and every question. Don't assume that you have no. Sorry. Address every bullet and every question. This is an easy way to help. When you fail to do this, the scoring judge has to assume you have no plan or have given the section no thought or consideration. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't be part of the application. So it's better to show a weak plan than no plan at all. This has happened quite a few times. Also, please do not cut and paste without going back and checking, because a lot of times when you did it last year and you cut and paste, the dates are wrong, the year is wrong, etc. So make sure that if you're copying and pasting that you review it before you get it in. Also, making sure you have follow the directions page as the checklist to make sure you have everything that's requested. A lot of times they'll come in without a signature or the IRS designation or your 501c3. Don't try to fluff scores when it comes to marketing and advertising. Many of the scores are PR and marketing professional, business owners, and they will see right through this. Include a chart that shows your timeline and your specific distribution channels, such as which newspapers, billboards, radio stations, etc. Just being generic is not specific enough, and if you can look at the score totals, like the 30 points, you want as many of those points as possible. This is an easy way to do that. If you state that your target audience is everyone, that's a little hard to develop a great marketing plan for everyone. So be a little more specific, and especially in the areas in which you're going to advertise. And also don't forget social media. And know your category. Be sure that if the category says 50% or 100% of the funds needed to be spent out of the area advertising, that your marketing plan is built around attracting tourists and out-of-state market. And then also the partnerships. If you can develop a partnership with a restaurant, a retailer, or another organization, include a letter or be specific about dates and what you're going to do to team with other arts and cultural organizations. And that's pretty much it. I would just recommend that you please read the guidelines and the checklist, because that's the easiest way to be disqualified. Although this time we're giving the opportunity for the staff to look it over, but when everybody piles in on Friday, it's kind of hard to do that. So just read it over. Feel free to call us. One of the things that Polk Arts Alliance is going to do is we'll send you an email. We're going to have 2 workshops. We're going to bring in spot tower exploration slides that have, and Polk Museum are great applicants. So if you have any questions, we'll actually have the mentor
possibility there, so they will be able to answer the questions directly and show examples of what is needed, answer your questions. They would just give us a call, especially when they have an overview on it.
Thank you, Mary. And Mary is obviously a great help throughout this entire process, and it's a great opportunity. Don't think just because you came to this workshop that her workshop is completely different, and to have spot power and exploration, the whole museum there, they, like I said earlier, no one's ever scored 100% on their application, but those three consistently score in the high 90s. So they would be some great examples to learn from, and definitely encourage you to attend Mary's workshops coming up. So, any other questions for me or for Mary? And again, I'm available anytime. This is our office, so this is where you can find me most days. If not, you can call, email, and I'll respond very quickly. Stephanie can answer questions, especially on the contract side and things in post-event paperwork side. So reach out to any of us anytime. We're excited to see you all here. Excited to start another year of sponsorship of arts, culture, and heritage in Polk County. So thank you all for coming. Have a great day.